Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake has become one of Capcom's most important remake projects. Not only is it bringing back one of the most beloved entries in the franchise, but it's also the game that connects some of the biggest storylines in Resident Evil history. Now, we finally have some fresh information from one of the most reliable Resident Evil insiders, giving us a much clearer picture of where development currently stands. We now know when the game could launch, why the release date still isn't completely locked in, what could potentially delay it, and we've even got new details about its semi-open world structure, side content, and physical release. There is a lot to break down today, so let's get straight into it. Let's start with the biggest topic and the reason most of you clicked on this video, the release window for Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake. Recently, well-known Resident Evil insider Dusk Golem shared a detailed breakdown explaining exactly where the game's launch currently stands. According to him, the release date will ultimately depend on how the next 6 months of development go. If everything continues smoothly and Capcom reaches its internal development milestones, the game is expected to launch in Q1 of 2027. However, if the team decides they need a little more time for additional polishing, the release could slip into Q2 of 2027. According to Dusk Golem, a Q3 release would only happen if something went seriously wrong during development, which at the moment doesn't appear to be the case. Now, let's unpack what this actually means. Capcom's current internal target is reportedly the first quarter of 2027, meaning sometime between January and March. That is the release window the developers are actively working towards right now. However, the next 6 months will be absolutely crucial. During this period, the development team will be focused on reaching key production milestones, polishing gameplay systems, fixing bugs, and making sure everything meets Capcom's quality standards. If those goals are achieved on schedule, we'll almost certainly see Code Veronica launch in early 2027. If not, Capcom may choose to delay it slightly into April to June, giving the team extra time to polish the final product. Personally, I don't think a Q3 release is very likely. Capcom has been incredibly consistent over the past few years when it comes to development. Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and even Resident Evil Requiem all launched in excellent condition. Unless something completely unexpected happens, I think the first half of 2027 remains the safest prediction. What's interesting is that this lines up perfectly with previous reports we've heard over the last year. Both Dusk Golem and Nate the Hate have repeatedly suggested that the game was targeting the first half of 2027. So, this latest information isn't exactly a brand new leak. Instead, it reinforces everything we've already been hearing. And honestly, that's really exciting. We just got Resident Evil Requiem this year, and if Capcom manages to release Code Veronica Remake next year as well, Resident Evil fans are going to be eating incredibly well. Few publishers are supporting their franchises as consistently as Capcom right now. They continue to deliver high-quality games at an impressive pace, and it's genuinely exciting to see where the series is heading next. Now, this is where things become even more interesting. According to Dusk Golem, Code Veronica Remake is actually ahead of schedule. Yes, you heard that correctly. Apparently, development has progressed so well that the project is currently ahead of its planned schedule. However, despite that positive progress, Capcom still wants to revisit and rework several aspects of the game before release. Honestly, that's fantastic news. In today's gaming industry, we constantly hear stories about delays, troubled development, canceled projects, and games launching unfinished. Hearing that a major AA title is actually ahead of schedule is incredibly refreshing. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean the game will launch early. Capcom has built its reputation on quality, and if the developers feel that certain mechanics or gameplay systems need improvement, they're going to take the time to refine them. And I think most Resident Evil fans would happily wait a few extra months if it means getting the best version of Code Veronica possible. Now, let's talk about why this remake may require more work than previous Resident Evil remakes. The original Resident Evil Code Veronica, released back in 2000, was actually one of the most ambitious games in the entire franchise. Unlike the earlier titles, it featured much larger interconnected environments, allowing players to revisit locations and explore multiple areas over the course of the story. You traveled across Rockford Island, explored military training facilities, prisons, laboratories, and eventually made your way to the massive Antarctic base. Compared to Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, the scale was significantly larger. In many ways, Code Veronica was the franchise's first semi-open-world Resident Evil game. Because of that, rebuilding it from the ground up isn't nearly as straightforward as remaking Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3. Those games focused on much tighter, more contained environments. Code Veronica is completely different. Capcom has to recreate much larger maps, redesign interconnected areas, modernize exploration, balance enemy encounters, improve progression systems, and ensure players can't accidentally break the game by exploring areas in unexpected ways. That's a huge amount of additional work. Every route has to be tested. Every puzzle has to function correctly. Every cutscene has to transition smoothly. Every area has to feel rewarding to explore while maintaining the survival horror atmosphere that Resident Evil is known for. So, when Dusk Golem says the team is spending extra time refining these systems, it makes perfect sense. Another interesting piece of information is that Code Veronica Remake is expected to receive a full physical release with the game included on the disc. Now, that might not sound like massive news at first, but considering everything happening across the gaming industry, it's actually quite significant. Recently, we've seen more publishers shipping physical boxes that simply contain download codes instead of actual game discs. Collectors have been increasingly frustrated by this trend, especially those who enjoy preserving physical game collections. If these reports are accurate, Code Veronica Remake will include the full game on disc, which is fantastic news for collectors and physical media fans. Finally, there's another rumor that's caught my attention. According to the latest reports, the connections could appear in some form within Code Veronica Remake. If you've played Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil Requiem, you'll already know about this mysterious criminal organization and its growing importance within the Resident Evil timeline. Finding a way to connect them with Code Veronica's story would be a very interesting move by Capcom. It could help bridge the classic games with the modern Resident Evil storyline while expanding the overall lore even further. Of course, at the moment, we should treat this as a rumor until Capcom officially confirms it, but it's certainly an exciting possibility. For now, all we can really do is wait for Capcom to officially reveal gameplay. Hopefully we'll get our first proper gameplay trailer sometime in the coming months, giving us our best look yet at how this ambitious remake is shaping up. And honestly, if everything we've heard so far turns out to be true, Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake could become one of Capcom's biggest and most ambitious remakes to date. What do you think? Do you believe the game will launch in Q1 2027? Or do you think Capcom will delay it into Q2 for additional polishing? And are you excited to finally see Code Veronica return after all these years? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay up to date with all the latest Resident Evil news, rumors, leaks, and official announcements, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.